The Jewish people are known as the people of the book. For our millennia of engagement with words, with text, and I, for one, certainly reflected a stronger penchant for words than for numbers when I took my SAT, but that's another story. This past year, though, we've been turned into numbers people. We've been counting. Since October 7th, 2023, many Jews, both in Israel and outside of Israel, have worn a simple piece of masking tape with the number of days since the hostages were taken. Throughout social media posts and pieces in Jewish magazines and newspapers, on my favorite Jewish podcast, For Heaven's Sake, from the Shalom Hartman Institute, the number of days since October 7th, 2023, has been announced. Hi, they begin. This is Danielle Hartman and Yossi Klein Halevi, and this is For Heaven's Sake, Israel at War, Day 8, Day 42, Day 200. In our worst nightmares, did we imagine reaching the number 365 and now beyond it? At the Greater Boston Jewish Community's commemoration of the one-year anniversary of October 7th, many numbers were listed. 1,269 individuals who were killed during the attack on October 7th, 816 civilians, 59 members of the police, 382 IDF soldiers, and 13 emergency first responders. 332 dancers at the Nova Festival, more than 20 Bedouin, Arab, and Palestinian citizens of Israel, 71 foreign nationals, 29 children, and at least 72 hostages who were murdered on that day or in captivity since then. And at that commemoration, we lit individual candles representing each of these individual souls. And we were told that this was to replenish the light that each soul brought to the world. The numbers of Israelis and Palestinians and Lebanese, and so many in the region who have been killed during this horrific year are incomprehensible. Can we ever understand these numbers? Can we grasp them, especially when we understand that each one, as our tradition does, is equivalent to an entire universe? When there is so much destruction, it can feel selfish to focus on the self and its particular needs and regrets and desires and development and growth. But as I spoke about on Rosh Hashanah, it is precisely in such a time as this that the individual work is most necessary. We cannot take in this world by the numbers. We need to understand the preciousness of every human being, and that begins with understanding ourselves as unique, as precious, as necessary parts of the universe. When we do that, as I said on Rosh Hashanah, we can bring the fullness of ourselves in our beauty and our brokenness, in our vulnerability and our strength, into authentic presence with one another. And it's in the face-to-face, the one-to-one connections that the world can be healed. Our Jewish people has a purpose. We're part of an ancient sacred covenant in which we've agreed to be God's partner in bringing the world to wholeness and healing. Even if you don't believe in God, in any kind of transcendent power with which we are in relationship and to which we owe anything at all, I believe that every one of us can connect with the notion of being a unique individual whose life is fleeting and precious, and whose particular gifts and even particular challenges have something to offer to this group project of being alive at this moment. And I believe that whether you are Jewish by birth, Jewish by choice, or a fellow traveler as part of a Jewish family, that you are essential to the covenant, that you are a part of this project. Our tradition has always emphasized both the utter importance of the individual and that the individual is intrinsically connected to the people, that the people need each and every one of us. There are expanding circles of connection that we see throughout our ancient texts and history, from individual to family to tribe, the people of Israel, and all of humanity. The book of Numbers, the fourth book of the 5 books of Torah, is so called because it begins with a census taken at its beginning. We think of counting as rather perfunctory, reducing each singular soul to a number. But in fact, the Torah text goes out of its way to point out that each individual is counted in a much broader way. The verb used here is not count, but rather that each Israelite is to raise up their head. Se'u et rosh. Rabbi Sarah Hurwitz writes, the head of each individual is raised as each is counted and awarded their specific role within the machaneh, the encampment. Unique characteristics are not suppressed, but recognized and utilized in the formation of the nation. The Torah does not expect us to conform to others, but rather to be part of a greater whole, to express one's individuality, but to do so for the betterment of a harmonious community. She goes on, so when the Torah stresses that each person was counted by his head as an individual, each person's singular characteristics, which are exclusive to the individual, are not to be suppressed and destroyed, but protected and integrated into the national whole, into the entire Jewish community. The medieval Torah commentator Nachmanides, the Ramban, asks why, with this census, is the Torah so concerned with knowing the general number of the camp, especially as the nation had already been counted once before? The Ramban answers, the Torah emphasizes that Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, should be counted not to know the aggregate of the entire community, but rather, quote, with the number of their names, because the Holy One, blessed be He, ordered Moses to number them in a manner that would confer honor and greatness on each one of them individually. Not that you should say to the head of a family, how many are there in your family? How many children do you have? But rather, all of them should pass before you in awe and with the honor due to them. The Torah reading for tomorrow morning also emphasizes the importance of the individual, as we will read the retelling of our ancestors' acceptance of the covenant at Mount Sinai. We read, I make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here this day and with those who are not with us this day. We read that the covenant is made with you, singular form, you. In Hebrew, these are very distinct forms. The covenant is made with you, individual. And then we read, you stand this day, all of you, to enter into the covenant of your, in the singular form, God, which your God, singular form, is concluding with you this day with its sanctions. And later we'll read the well-known verses, I have put before you life and death, and that too, singular form, lifanecha. I have put before you blessing and curse. Choose life if you and your singular form, offspring, singular form, zarecha, would live. So we see in the grammatical forms chosen for these verses how the individual is intrinsically connected to the community, and in this verse, to the generations that will come after. Every individual is a universe because they contain not only who they are and the importance of their individual lifetime, but the impact they will have on future generations, whether by raising children or teaching others or otherwise. That impact is immeasurable. So you have a choice between life and death, blessing and curse, and the text is unequivocal. You must choose life so that you, an individual, and all that will come forth from you and the entire community and people and world will live. In the Unatana Tokef prayer that we recite during the Amidah on the High Holy Days, there is imagery that, if taken at face value, can be quite jarring and disturbing. A shepherd who counts us like sheep? But again, like the census in the book of Numbers, this is not a simple kind of counting. We are not just numbers, we are seen. We chant these words in this central prayer: Atahu dayan umochiach v'yodea va'ed v'chotev v'chotem v'sofer umoneh v'tizkor kol hanishkachot v'tiftach et sefer hazichronot ume'ela v'kareh v'chotam yad kol adam bo. Those words mean, you are the judge who reproves and knows all forever and writes and seals and tells our stories. That's my translation. Tells our full stories and counts and remembers all the forgotten things and opens the book of remembrances, and from it all shall be read. The signature of every person is in it. That's what those words mean. Literally, the handwriting, the signature of every human being is in this book of remembrances. So we're remembered, or we're praying to be remembered. In other words, deeply seen. Remembered in all the forgotten things, that by a force that sees us in our entirety, our wholeness, in that which we might wish to conceal from ourselves. Every one of us is written into the scroll that is this world in all of its fullness. Every one of us is necessary. A Hasidic master known as the Meor Einayim, who lived from 1730 to 1797, taught that there are 600,000 letters in Torah. That's not true, by the way, but I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Every Jew has a soul root connected to one of the letters, each letter corresponding to the unique quality of his soul. Accordingly, should he disconnect himself from Torah, God forbid, then one letter would be lacking from the Torah. The entire Torah would be pasul, deficient. You couldn't use it. It wouldn't be kosher. That person would need to fix the deficiency and reconnect in order to make it a whole Torah. And the Meor Einayim further teaches that Simchat Torah is the day when each person reconnects with their own special letter in the Torah. He said this can only happen after the other holidays of Tishrei are finished, and we've had an opportunity for return and repentance. So, here's the actual number of letters in Torah: 304,805. I did not count them myself. But many explanations in true Jewish form are offered to get us to that 600,000, including counting different vowel pronunciations or counting the white space around each letter, very creative. But there was a 16th century sage, Rav Nosson Nota Spira, who taught that the soul of every Jew stems, just like the Meor Einayim said, from one of these 600,000 letters. The word Israel, Yisrael, can be read as an acronym, he said, for Yesh Shishim Ribo Otiot La Torah, which means there are 6,000 letters in the Torah. Amazing, right? He read there's 600, there may not really be 600,000 letters, but look how the word Yisrael in Hebrew can be read as an acronym for there are 600,000 letters in the Torah. So he goes on, therefore, Israel did not leave Egypt until there were 600,000 of them, so that each soul could be supported by one letter in the Torah. Torah was revealed to every Jew who would ever be. Every Jewish soul somehow emanates from one of those roots. It is these 600,000 soul roots that were present at Sinai, encapsulating all future Jewish souls. And again, that means anyone who is born Jewish or chooses to be Jewish, and I would add, a fellow traveler. While some letters in the Torah are written larger than others, there's no letter that is more significant than any other. But again, if any letter is missing or incomplete, you can't use that Torah scroll. The Jewish people is one Torah scroll. Everybody counts. Every individual is a letter, and we're all one, interdependent and equally important. Everyone counts, all who were, all who are, all who ever will come to be. So not to know the essence of our own souls, not to share in the essence of another's soul, is to forget that each one is essential. I became aware of this whole 600,000 letters teaching in a very unlikely source, Instagram. Back in June, an Israeli Columbia Business School professor named Shai Davidai posted something that made me aware of this teaching. He was the first faculty member on any campus to recognize and call out, right in the center of campus, the rabid anti-Semitism unfolding on his campus last year. And he developed a large following on social media and a podcast, and he's become known to many Israeli and American Jews. He posted in June about an incredible project called Ot Chaim, which is a play on words. Ot Chaim means a sign of life, but Ot also means letter. So Ot Chaim is a project to write a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll, to honor those who were murdered and those killed in battle in this war. Their website states, the Ot Chaim project is not only a commemorative project, but to a large extent, it is a source of comfort for the bereaved families. A main part of the project is reaching out to families who lost loved ones and writing the letters of the Sefer Torah together with them at special events. So the Sofer, the Torah scribe, because each letter has to be written exactly so, will actually take the hand of the one honoring a loved one and help them write the letter in the scroll. So when I discovered this, as of last June, more than 10,000 Israelis had written letters in the scroll, honoring the loved ones of over 150 bereaved families. Of course, that number is much larger now, and I have since learned that there are actually several similar projects, including another one also called Ot Chaim, which recognizes the uniqueness of a person's handwriting. It's so precious and unique, our handwriting, just like our soul. So their website states, the handwriting of a person reflects something of their personality, something of them, so designers create fonts from the handwriting of the victims of October 7th and fallen soldiers. They do this with the bereaved families to commemorate the memory of their loved ones. On the website for this project, there's an excerpt from a poem by the famous Israeli poet Chaim Guri. And know that time and foes, the wind and the water won't erase you. You will endure, made of letters. That's quite a lot. Something of you, nevertheless, will remain. So on Yom Kippur, especially this year, a year in which the numbers overwhelm us, when we can feel like we're drowning in the impossibility of making any difference at all, we are called to do the work that we pray that God will do. We need, as I said on Rosh Hashanah, to take a God's eye view, to remember the self, the unique, singular, necessary self, the self that is remembered and deeply seen in its fullness by God or the universe, the infinite, the mystery, whatever you want to call that. The soul is a world, and it's an essential part of the world. The soul is an entire Torah, and it is a letter, an essential part of the entire Torah. Every one of us is necessary to the scroll that is the story of our lives, the story of our people, the story of humanity. When we remember, when we deeply see ourselves, we can meet every other letter, every other soul in their fullness, in their necessity. We can touch another soul and another and another, and in these simple and seemingly small human encounters, we can, in fact, fight back the wave of destruction, of violence, of suffering with which our people and our Jewish nation and our world is confronted at this moment. May we take this precious day, this one long day that begins tonight, to open our broken hearts to the preciousness of our letter, to discover our connection to the other letters. What words can we make? What stories do we tell? May we write a story that honors our tradition's insistence on the singularity of every individual, from a place of strength and full presence to ourselves. May we reach out to one another to write in the scroll of our people and all humanity a story of healing, of hope, and of wholeness.